Saturday morning, time for the Experts Show here on Power Talk 1460 and 101 FM, and that means our tech expert, Luis Alvarez, is helping to kick things off this Saturday morning. Good morning, Luis.
Good morning, Mark. How are you today?
Doing pretty good, and yourself?
I am doing terrific.
Now, I know you're a Fin fan. You're a Dolphin fan from way back, but we have the 49er playoff game against the Vikings today. Are you going to watch it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of all football.
Okay.
The Dolphins are my team because I grew up in Miami, and you just kind of always have that. But I'm looking forward to all the playoff games this weekend, in particular the San Francisco game. I think it's going to be a good one.
Well, if you have to go out and about today, we'll have the game on the radio on 1460. I believe the kickoff is around 1:25 p.m. or so.
Excellent. I'll keep that in mind.
All right, our topic du jour, for the week, is about cyber infrastructure and the potential for Iranian cyber response to the U.S. military strike in Baghdad. That was one of the things that we were talking about, that you and I were mentioning last week was on the phone, was after this strike, how could the Iranians possibly retaliate? And they may not try to militarily retaliate in the traditional sense, but they might go for something in the way of a cyber war because they're pretty skilled. That's like apparently one area where they put a lot of resources into, right?
They're masters of what's known as asymmetric warfare. That is the non-tanks, non-soldier, non-airplane type stuff. And like a lot of smaller countries that know that they can't go toe-to-toe with the United States or Russia or China, you develop skills that allow you to disrupt their economies, their government, the way that they do business in a way that damages them in non-military terms. And Iran has had a very robust cyber unit that has targeted many infrastructure networks in the United States. There's attacks going back as far as 5-6 years ago where they tried to break into power plants, for example, and try to break into government agencies. But now the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, as well as the FBI, has issued a national alert saying that they expect that the Iranians are going to turn their cyber warfare skills against economic targets because they understand that the economy is one of those things, commercial success in the United States is one of those things that if somehow they can disrupt, it will really hurt the Trump administration because they tout how well the economy is doing. So if you can get in there and cause havoc, it would be more effective to them than dropping bombs on American targets in the Middle East.
So if they're looking at some sort of cyber warfare, they're not necessarily thinking of going after government institutions with their cyber warfare. They would be looking at private industry, going after the economy in that sense. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, because quite frankly, government agencies have done a pretty good job over the last few years of improving their defenses. For example, right after the U.S. killed the Iranian general, Texas experienced 10,000 cyber attacks within a couple of days, all against government targets and all of them rebuffed. So they understand, the Iranians do, that the private industry is a softer target and easier to go after simply because they just don't have the same level of protections in place. And we offer a managed security service that many of our clients take advantage of, and it enhances what traditional security that most people think about, things like antivirus or anti-malware, a firewall, those sorts of things are table stakes. You got to have them. But quite frankly, the threats are so great now that we put together a bunch of tools and services that are designed to do the best that we possibly can to not only counter cyber attacks, but detect them if they do penetrate the perimeter and respond quickly to remove them. And so we've been going through the exercise of making sure that all of those tools are up to date, they're deployed correctly, that we've heightened our alerting to make sure that nothing gets through without us knowing about it. And it's nerve-wracking. It's what keeps me up at night.
Oh, I'll bet. Hey, one thing to ask you about is looking at some of the Iranian cyber activity that's happened, and let's go through a few of these because as far back, they've been doing this for a long time. You go back almost 10 years, from 2011 to mid-2013, they targeted the U.S. financial sector. What exactly did they try and do?
They were trying to do what's called a denial of service attack. So the idea there is that our financial system in the United States has gotten so dependent on the internet to transact business. I mean, you think about how many people log into their accounts via secure portals or transact business, like when you put in a credit card number in Amazon and it has to verify the information, it does that over the internet, securely, mind you, but still over the internet. So what a denial of service attack does is it floods those network connections to the point where you can't transact business. There's just too much information, and it's basically denying the ability of those networks to operate. And so from the inside out, it looks like all of a sudden you can't get to the internet, internet. You can't do anything. But what's happening is you're being bombarded by millions of packets that are flooding your firewall, your internet connection, and keeping you from doing business. And they did that successfully for a couple of years, and it caused all sorts of outages. It caused banks to not be able to transact business for days at a time, and the websites went down. And so it just shows that they have this capability of, it's not killing or hurting anybody, but just basically denying the ability of certain organizations to do, carry on business in the normal course of their day.
Now, more concerning was unauthorized access to a dam in New York State in August and September of 2013. It's one thing to initiate a denial of service attack. It's another thing to gain access to elements of the grid, the electrical grid, and certainly a dam could be part of that, and shut that down or cause other problems. So this had to be something that really got the attention of the government.
It did, and it led to a lot of infrastructure organizations throughout the country, whether you were generating power or you were doing things like wastewater management, those sorts of things, to tighten up their security, because once you get access to these systems, the supervisory control and data acquisition, or SCADA systems, that they use to manage all of the devices that are on, that do things like control the valves and control pressure and those sorts of things, you can cause significant damage. And you can shut down, let's say, imagine if they were able to shut down a wastewater management plant here in Monterey for a week. What would that mean for us, and how would that impact the community at large? What if they were able to knock the grid out for a significant period of time at a critical point during the week? How would that impact the community at large? So those are the sorts of things that they've tried to do and potentially could do in the future.
So what kind of businesses should be most concerned about a cyber attack from Iran?
Every business.
Even a candy store.
Yeah. One of the things we tell our clients is, look, on the internet, every business is equal, right? In fact, the smaller businesses are more likely to be targeted than larger ones, because larger businesses tend to have cybersecurity teams that have hardened their networks, but a smaller business who maybe doesn't have a full-time IT company, maybe they outsource their IT to somebody, consultants or something, those guys are vulnerable because they don't have the same level of protection as large organizations. So those are the targets of opportunity that cyber criminals in general, but the Iranians in particular, go after, because they know that they can do damage. There was a story recently of a company a company that does holiday cards and birthday cards, those sorts of things. And they actually had to shut down and lay off 200 employees because they were attacked by state actors. They don't know if they're Iranian or from North Korea, but at the end of the day, they were able to do such damage to the data and to their network that they couldn't produce. And they just basically had to shut their doors and let all their people go. So those are the sorts of consequences, the kind of things that the Iranians want to accomplish to damage the economy of the United States, since they can't damage the military.
And that's also a form of terrorism. When a small business, they don't know where to turn, what to do. Those types of attacks can actually, as you mentioned, that card company had stopped producing. Let's say you had a very small business. They could put you out of business. It would be just as bad as someone coming in and stealing the oven out of a bakery. It could really be, and that's what they want to do. The goal of the terrorist isn't to scare the people that work in the government. It's to scare the general population.
They want to create a panic and incite such fear in people that they don't know what to do and stop trusting the institutions that are supposed to protect them.
Right.
And introduce doubt into the public at large that maybe the government doesn't know what they're doing. And that could do more damage to a president or an administration than dropping a bomb on a military base someplace.
Great point. All right. Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, has been our guest today. Online, it's alvareztg.com, the Twitter handle @AlvarezTG. And Luis, the toll-free number for the I-Team.
If you're interested in a free security assessment, please give us a call at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326. Absolutely free, and we'll let you know what your risk profile looks like.
Sounds great. Thank you, Luis, and we'll chat again on Monday.
Take care, Mark.